Lawsome by ConsultWebs. Breakthrough insights to build a thriving law firm with your host, Tanner Jones.
As a corporate tax advisor and entrepreneur, Andre has created and led several tech companies over the years. Until recently, he was the group CFO and COO of a global leading company based in New York City, which performs expert legal billing reviews. Throughout the past decade, he worked with leading insurance companies both in the United States and the United Kingdom, ensuring that the legal bills and that they received were always compliant with their billing guidelines before they made any payments to law firms. So he's gathered all the knowledge and experience gained to found Accurate Legal Billing Incorporated with a mission to help law firms across the world improve cash flow and their billing efficiencies. Andre, it's such a pleasure having you today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tanner. Thanks for having me.
Well, I hope to dig in a little bit into your history, but let's start first with some of the basics. How exactly do invoice payments work? And what's the process like in the legal profession?
Oh, wonderful. Interesting question. I would say it depends on practice area. Depending on the areas of law, you have firm either e-billing by sending their bills through an e-bill system, or some firm just sending the invoices directly to the clients. I would say quite often today, what you see is family law business. They will send individual invoices to recipient, quite often the people, and you receive insurance law firm working for insurance defense or workers' comp cases or legal corporate department. They will send their invoices to e-billing. And this is due to the fact that these more sophisticated industries, they have a billing process in place where they try to control their costs through that system by having a third party looking at these invoices through their e-billing system. So depending on the practice area, you have e-bill or paper bill.
Okay. And I know just from our experience in working with law firms, one of the biggest pain points that a law firm business has is often related to cash flow and issues that stem from lack thereof. And it's often due to delays in payments being received. Would you agree, first and foremost, with that?
Yes, I fully agree. And to that same line, there was a survey done just recently by a company called Aderen. The annual survey showed that one of the bigger pain points of law firm was the payment and collection. And lots of firms said that 60% of the firm that responded, and these are from a law firm with 10 attorneys to over 500 attorneys, so you're talking across the board, they reported over 60 days delayed in payments.
What are those frequent causes or reasons that law firms are struggling getting timely payments?
From my experience and also from the industry, we have to remember since the early 90s, the industry, the legal industry, when it came to billing, changed a lot. Okay, insurance company, TPAs, and self-insured corporations, they decided to move from paper billing to e-bill. This was a process for them to try to control their legal spend. Okay, they wanted to ensure that there's a proper process in place, because prior to that, they would receive invoices and their finance department would just process this. And I think they realized that there were lots of things there that was being built that shouldn't have been built. So they developed this, or they work with other companies to develop an e-billing system where law firm will have to submit bill through that process. Along the line, they develop what we call billing guidelines. So each carrier will define what are the rules for billing. If you're working on this practice area for us, you got to bill us in such a ways. And these are the certain items. This guideline is very, very clear as to what the law firm should bill and what they shouldn't bill. Who should perform certain type of tasks and who should not. So it's very clear. Now, with the time, these billing rules have evolved. Company like the one that I used to own an e-billing company prior to helping law firm. I was one of those leader in the e-billing world for nearly 2 decades. And through my company, I was able to save insurance company in the US, in the UK, as you mentioned in my introduction earlier. I was able to save company over $1.5 billion. Okay, so this is $1.5 billion being reduced of the law firm bills. Now, what's the issue here is that insurance company, TPA, self-insured corporations, they work with outside vendor like my company and several others to develop technology to ensure that these rules that they have defined in their billing guidelines are abided by or adhered to by the law firm. Now, the law firm, on the other end, they did not, and as we all know, law firm, they're really, really slow and reluctant to adopt technology. So on one hand, we invested millions in our technology, my previous company, and the likes, invested millions to make sure that we can make as much reduction as possible on the law firm bills. But the law firm, they never adopted technology. They're reluctant to accept technology. They don't want to move with the technology. As a result of that, it created an imbalance between the law firm and the e-billing vendors. That generates a big gap between the two parties. They're supposed to work together, but it's not happening because one is using technology. Law firm, on the other hand, they just think, you know what, we'll deal with that later, or we accept that as a cost of doing business, which is wrong because, you know, if you're going to accept that a company like my previous company could take $5 million off your money, if you can accept that as cost of doing business, I don't think that you should. In my opinion, you should not. If you've done the work, why should you accept that? They're not increasing your rate to meet that. So I would say that law firm, their lack of adoption to technology is the bigger killer here for them because it delayed their payment. Because look, when they generate an invoice, which is not in compliance with their guidelines, they're doing two things. They're suffering in two ways. One, they have this cumbersome process that they have in-house where an associate entered their time. That time is not in compliance with the billing guidelines. The billing partners spend so much time in what they call pre-bill. They spend this time trying. What do they do during the pre-bill time? They spend, billing partners who are the higher rated at the firm, they spend so much time trying to correct the narrative of these associates. Try to make this narrative compliant, okay, or sounds compliant. They're wasting so much time on that. They're not also looking at the compliance because they don't have the billing guideline in front of them. So they're trying their best to make these sounds like works has been done or works has been done. I'm not going to say it hasn't, but the narrative is poor to describe what work has been done. So they spend their time doing that and they submit it to a company like my previous company, and we make 20 or 30% reduction on that invoice, right? And then these guys, they left not only the time that you spend correcting it, you're losing about 20% of this reduction. And the same survey that I mentioned earlier from Adrian found that 70% of the firm said that they're losing over 20% or more being on their invoice, either being rejected or reduced by an e-billing company.
There's no question that's a motivator.
Exactly. So that gap between the compliance and the funny thing is, these insurance companies, everybody today is moving into the e-billing because they are now seeing e-billing as a way of getting money back. Or people in this insurance company, they're seeing this as a way of saving money, okay, from the law firm. They're seeing this because the numbers are big. The numbers are huge now. I'm telling you about $1.5 billion. This is a lot of money. right? And that is only from my only e-billing company. And there are hundreds of us out there. So imagine how much money they are saving. So if I can save that, and then another person, another company can do that, 10 of us can do that, we're talking about $15 billion. It's a big industry.
Oh, it adds up, no question. And I'd like to try to draw out any particular, even just kind of starting small here. Are there any small steps that law firms can begin to take in order to cut down on some of those billing errors? Can you give any advice, for example, around an invoice template? Are there ways to guide firms that they can start actually implementing immediately to avoid some of these pitfalls?
Yes, some quick thing that they can do is, if I pick two examples of mistakes that maybe that we illustrate what they can do. A few things that we identify when we're reviewing the bills, right? Some of the big mistakes when we got the money from these guys, it's very simple. It's just that, for example, someone is traveling somewhere to attend a deposition, right? They just have to just write down what time that deposition started, what time it ended. Just write it in your notes. And when you bill, remember to include that in your bill. That will save you a lot of money. The activities that should not be performed by you as an attorney, don't do that. And you have the list of these clerical activities that should not be performed by you as an attorney. And these lists are all fully included in your billing guidelines. It's just that the attorney do not have the time to look at the billing guideline. They don't have the time and the energy to do that. And they've relied on somebody else to do the compliance. But one thing they don't understand is that as an e-billing vendor, I know when an answer is coming from you, the attorney who did the work, and I know when the answer is coming from the billing department, who is fighting for you to get paid.
Well, I mean, I just want to reiterate because you stress the point of a lot of wasted time goes into this, and as we all know, time is money, and so wasted time on both parties. But that ultimately leads to frustration, not only on your end, but the bigger risk is leading frustration on the client's end when they're having to clarify these things and ultimately diluting that trust. It's going to hurt retention over time as well.
That's a really good point. And that point you're making right now is really good one. Do you know why? Because that is illustrated and that's stated in the billing guideline. You said it as if you read the billing guideline. I don't know if you read one, but that is exactly what it says in the billing guideline. The reason, if the more reduction be made on an invoice, create delay in payment, create bad relationship with your client, create delayed, this back and forward with the e-billing vendors, which could result in two things. The firm could even be kicked out of the panel if you don't comply with the billing guideline. A second, it could also result in rate not receiving any rate increase. So sometimes law firm will say, oh, I'm not getting the rates increase. You're not getting the rates increase. You don't know why you're not getting the rates increase. Oh, maybe because you're not complying with the billing guidelines. And it's stated in the billing guidelines. You don't comply, we're not going to increase your rate. If you continue not to comply, X amount of time, then we can kick you out of our panel.
Let's dive into the tech concept because obviously tech is evolving dramatically. And you mentioned, 20, 30 plus years ago, the billing industry was largely transformed. And we're seeing tech really driving automation. Just the concept of, what can technology do that it required 10 people to do before, and obviously saving business owners time and money, which is the name of the game. So acknowledging that the best way to eliminate non-compliance in invoices and other errors is going to be through billing automation. What's your thoughts on the future of this technology and how it ultimately will continue to impact the legal profession when it comes to billing and ultimately avoiding more billing errors?
Tanner, I can tell you now, this technology is not going anywhere. It's here to stay. Either law firm accepts it and deal with it and come on board, or they're just going to have to drop off panels and panels. They're not going to be in business. So this because of the money that these tools are now generating for their client, meaning insurance company, self-insured corporation, TPAs. They're generating a substantial amount of money. And we know whenever money is involved, especially a big amount of money, we're talking about billions, they're not going to go anywhere. Now, what these e-billing vendors are doing, as you're touching on technology, they're now using machine learning, which is one part of AI, and natural language processing. So they're using MLP and ML, machine learning. They couple those two together to ensure that they are consistently reducing or spotting the mistakes on law firm invoices. They're not using human being. They are evolved. They are even new. They're new technology out there. Okay, which is now with these algorithms can detect in a matter of milliseconds who should have worked on this task, who worked on this task last month, why is it that you this month is looking at the same thing, and they can go back and analyze the data to make the decision on the task that's been performed today. And they can determine when this task is excessive, whether you spend excessive time on activity, because they're using the technology to do that. Now, on the other hand, the law firms are relying on the billing department. Sometimes they rely on the human being, their billing partners, to the billing pre-bill process to catch all this and to fight with AI. And we know who's going to lose that battle, right? Because which partner, this is the thing, which partner is going to be able to remember what they billed last month? None of them. None. And most of these, what did they do during the pre-bill? They print off. Okay? You will not believe this, that this practice still exists in biggest law firm. They do, at the end of the month, they print their time entry, the associate time entry. They write by hand. And they send it to the billing department to make this correction, this adjustment, and submit it into the billing vendors. That is day and night. As long as the law firm keep relying only purely on human being, and on the other end, the e-billing vendors are relying on using AI to do compliance, law firms still gonna lose a tons of money. And now, to prove the point, these e-billing companies, they're now citing, and this is on their website, that they can guarantee 20% reduction on a law firm bill. Why would they make such a statement?
They have the data that proves that. We're seeing this. You mentioned natural language processing and just general machine learning, the concept of allowing technology to help us make better decisions, to be more informed, and really to consider things that we've never even considered or we don't have time to consider because it's doing it through automation. There's obviously power there, and you've listed a lot of the key benefits I see and I agree with as well. But I also know that we may have some listeners who are hearing this and they acknowledge, yes, there's likely some value here, but often maybe they don't even know where the non-compliance lies. Maybe they don't understand the full problem. What are some cons here? What are some disadvantages, or what are some struggles that firms would face in kind of taking two steps into this concept of leveraging artificial intelligence in their billing process?
Well, like in anything, right? As you mentioned, there will be pros and cons, right? The pros would be, in my view, is that it will save you, any law firm which adopt the right technology. And let me take a step back there for a second. Law firms are reluctant to change. But now, what the technology has done, or what people like myself have done in this industry, is that we understand that they're reluctant to change, but we have built and developed technology which can be integrated with their current setup so that there's not actually a change of culture. So you can still use the same system that you're using today. We have AI which can capture those entries, make them compliant before it goes. So the pro will be that we bring in this system, we can ensure compliance from the onset. So I want to go to that attorney who did a time entry and tell you what you did wrong. And also, I tell you through my AI what you did wrong. I tell you how to fix it. Okay, as per that specific client guideline. So the pro is really big because imagine an attorney, an associate working for 5 different insurance companies doing the same activity, okay, same kind of work for 5 different insurance companies. These 5 different insurance companies will have 5 different ways of requirements for this guy to build them for that same activity. Some will say, I've taken the position, for example, or legal research. One company will say, I don't want you to do legal research on my file as an attorney. I want that to be done by the paralegal. The other one will say legal research should not be done in excess of 2 hours. The other one will say legal research should not be done in excess of 3 hours. Legal research should not be done in excess of 5 hours in this particular billing cycle. Legal research should not be done at all. So there are 5 different ways. But this person, this associate sitting there doing that work should know this, right? But it doesn't have a time to learn all this in the billing guidelines. So what our system, what technology is now doing for a company like my company, ARB, is that we will bring our technology, integrate with whatever system the attorneys are using today to enter the time, and then we will highlight to you, hey, this client doesn't want you to bill. Maybe for you to bill, you need approval. Did you get approval? Because we're analyzing your narrative, we don't see approval name and date in that narrative. So get it. So you can see that the attorney doesn't need to learn the billing guidelines, doesn't need to know the requirements of the billing guidelines. If you adopt the correct technology, you don't need to know. You don't need to learn. Now, the pros would be all these entries are corrected by the associate themselves. We tell them what to do and how to correct it. When you go to pre-bill, the billing partner will be spending hours and hours sitting there reviewing these entries, trying to correct them. The entries are already coming in, they're fully corrected. He doesn't need to spend that time correcting those entries anymore. The billing department that was wasting time appealing, they don't need to appeal anymore because there's no reductions on those narratives, right? The invoice goes through it. Now, because there's no reduction on the narratives, there's no reduction on the invoices, what happened? The invoice gets processed very quickly, the law firm gets the money. So the cash flow is better. So you can see that if you correct those entries from the onset, the whole process goes smooth and the firm gets the money back in the bank account very quickly. If there's a delay, then it falls off. The cost of all of this, I would say pros and cons. The cons that I can only see is the learning curve. Okay, it's just to train this attorney to kind of understand that, okay, here I need to correct this entry. And we realized with some of our clients that when they're using technology like ours, the attorney, because it repetitively tells them what to correct, in the long run, they learn not to make those mistakes. So you can see that this technology also educating them without imposing, without having them sit down and do some training or do lots of things. So the learning curve is the only thing that I can see as a con to this process, is that attorneys had to accept the technology and then give themselves a short period, a window to learn to adopt that technology. And with that, we've seen as soon as they accept it, they learn, and the learning curve is what? 1 month maximum? That's it.
The concept of crawl before you run, it's like sometimes you have to gear down in order to gear up first. And that's the whole concept there, is take that initial time, find a season in your work life, in your annual business year that's possibly slower than normal, and leverage that downtime to invest in technology, not just in billing, but just as you're saying, there's technology all around us. It's not going anywhere. In fact, it's only speeding up. I think coronavirus, just the season, has forced lawyers ahead by 10 years. I've said that many times in this podcast, but this is a real opportunity to embrace technology for the good of your business, but also for the good of your clients.
That's to the point. You foster that relationship with your client. And now I'm going to illustrate that by one example. As somebody who used to work with insurance company, I work for some of the largest insurance company in the US and the largest in the UK and in Canada. So I've been in meetings, right, where I heard people saying to law firm, there's no rate increase this term. Okay, they're pushing back on rate increase. And by the time I walk back to my office, that same person sends me an email and say, hey, increase the rate of this other firm. So I would say to law firm, if a client says to you there's no rate increase, be cautious. It means that they're probably not increasing your firm rate. It doesn't mean they're actually not increasing rate at all. Okay? Your firm has done something and doesn't deserve a rate increase. And they can only know through the metrics that has been provided to them. Right? They can only look at the metrics. Because e-billing companies, they think that e-billing companies are just there to review their bills. And that's all. No, my friend. These guys are gathering tons of metrics on your law firm. And they share providing to your clients. And what's the best metrics for them to make decision? It's only anything that related to money.
Yeah, I want to touch on that one, because I'm a marketer, and we tend to we try to boil all the work down into a few key metrics just to evaluate success or failure, or to evaluate trajectory on performance. And so I think it could be argued that this is somewhat difficult, possibly even in some instances subjective, to be able to truly evaluate the effect of implementing something like what you're talking about here, billing automation and tighter guidelines around invoicing. So are there any particular metrics that you've guided your clients on to evaluate so that they can know objectively at the end of each year or end of each quarter that this process is performing well for them?
Oh, yes. Oh, ton.
So let's share with our audience, what are the few, just really trying to boil it down to 1 to 3 key metrics. What can they look at to really determine progress?
I will give you a couple of examples. Claim metrics, I would say, share with your clients. If you're a law firm and you're working, especially if you're working with litigation or workers' comp or any of these where you have billing guidelines, any client that gives you billing guidelines, just share some metrics with them, because they're tracking. I say this to law firm, you're not going to give them something that they don't have. Okay, you're not going to give them something new. But the difference is you're going to give them something that they have, which means that they will trust you more if you're giving them the same metrics. Okay, because if I come to you, Tanner, you have my numbers, and then I show you the same number, you're going to trust me because I've been open and clear with you. But if I show you just something, and this is what law firms tend to do, what do? They show metrics that makes them look good, right? And if I try to look good in front of you, and then you have some numbers there that doesn't look good, it's like, so no matter what I tell you, you know the truth, right? I'm gonna walk out of that meeting thinking that, oh, Tanner is happy with me, but Tanner would be like, you sat in my face and you lied to me. So what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna give you more cases. So what do they look at as metrics? They want to see on your budget, for example, if I look at claim metrics and budgets and all that, they're tracking your firm. They're looking at specific matter, at the matter level. What was the budget that you submitted on this case? Where did you end up in this case? Okay, so you need to be tracking that yourself. You need to be tracking, and it's a big business because why is it big? When you submit a budget to an insurance company, you, in a sense, asking them to put money on the side for this to fight this case. Now, I've seen so many times where firm has been kicked out of a panel, or firm has been said, don't give my cases to that firm. Why? Because you put, and this is where people make mistakes. They go there and say, you know what? I budget $1 million for this case, for defense for this case. And then in the end, it only results to $400K. They say to the firm, say to the client, oh, you see, I save you money. Oh, no. You cost them money. The CFO sitting in that meeting and say, you cost me money, Mr. Law Firm. You asked me to put a budget of $1 million. And then in the end, I should have put something 400. Your legal spend is only 400. So by tracking those budgets and give an accurate budget, big number for them. Because they're not going to put the 1 million. Let us be clear. When you say 1 million, they don't put the 1 million. They're probably going to put 80% or 75% or 70% of that. So whatever your budget is, they're going to put maybe 70% on that reserve. So how they're losing money is that you're asking them to put 70%, 700K in the bucket somewhere for months and months and months and months and months and years. And then in the end, you only spend 400. So there's a 300 grand that they could have invested it somewhere and generate some return. So that's how they're seeing that firm is costing them money. And these carriers, some of them, they have thousands and thousands of law firms. So you can imagine how much money has been put into the reserves. You can see this on the financial. So how much money they're losing. So I say to the law firm, please make sure you track your budget. Make sure that your budget is as accurate as possible. Okay. Second, they want to know how you staff your cases. Who's working on their cases at this law firm? Are they heavy-handed? Are they using lots of partners or senior partners to work on our cases? Are they using junior partners? Are they using paralegals and all of that to work on our cases? Why are they tracking those metrics? Because let's say you go in New York and then you have two firms working for you in New York. What metrics they're tracking is that on these two firms, they will look and say, okay, this firm is using more partners to work on our cases. This other one is using junior partners or associates to work on our cases. So we're spending less money on this one because they're using the right resources to work on our cases. And they always mention that in their billing guide. Do not use heavy resources to work on our cases. Save us money as much as possible. So what's going to end up doing, they're going to call the claim adjuster. They're going to say to the claim adjuster, do not give any more of our cases to this firm. Because in this location, we have these firms, and this one is spending more money because they're using partners, and then this. So now, people will say that, okay, sometimes the result might be different. What about we're achieving better result if we're using partners? What about yes. Good point. But at the end, this is not what they're looking at, okay? Because you guys are achieving both results. If this firm doesn't achieve any result, they're not going to be on the panel. So you guys are achieving the results. But what they're looking at is how much is it costing me for you to achieve that result, as opposed to how much is it costing me here to achieve the same result. So, track your metrics, budget, staffing ratio, or staffing, how you staff your cases. Show the metrics about the cases, how quickly closing ratio. So how quickly you close your cases. Very important metrics. For a client, they want to know that, okay, these people are closing cases, and they track it at national level and also at a town level, a state level, and they give that cases based on that closing ratio. So which firm is closing our cases very quickly, because a case that is closed means that I don't bill, I'm not expecting any more payments on that case, right? So the quicker you close the case, the more you're going to get. Sometimes law firm thinking that if we keep this case open for a long time, we can keep billing on it, but it's costing you money because they will give you more cases if you close cases very quickly. So those are just samples of metrics, and I have tons of those metrics that they look at that, I'm more than happy to share. And I'm publishing something next week about these kind of metrics. And I published something also yesterday on my LinkedIn on these metrics, what type of metrics they should be providing to these clients.
Andre. Yeah, I think that, I mean, just being able to have a target, understanding whether how far off you are, from that target, or whether you're hitting a bullseye consistently, gives a sense of confidence and allows business owners, specifically law firm owners, a sense of clarity, in prior decisions. So that's all helpful. And just in wrapping up here, Andre, is there anything I didn't ask you that you wished I would have?
No, I think we touched on a lot of things, but there are a couple of things that I can add there to the point that you just made. You talked earlier about relationship, right? And I would say that another way for law firm to keep improving relationship with their client is gathering these metrics. If you gather the metrics, you have a reason to be in front of that client, maybe on a quarterly basis. If I come to you every quarter and I'm showing you the progress, right? I show, hey, this quarter, and I'll be open and honest with you. Track also, another extremely important metric that you also track is the e-billing reduction metrics. If they use a platform like ALB to help them with compliance, what's going to happen is that you're going to see that prior to ALB, the reduction was 20%. Now the reduction is maybe 5% or 1%. So if I consistently maintain this 1%, I can come to you as a client on top of all of these metrics, and I keep showing you every quarter how much we are complying to your guideline, how we comply with your budget, how accurate our budget is, how we staffing our cases, all these kind of metrics that I will show you. What's going to happen is that I will have a better relationship with you because you're going to trust me more. If I'm consistent, achieving high metrics, and also very important, these metrics will have been already with you. As I mentioned earlier, they have these metrics already. So you're going to see that I'm giving you the same metrics that the people, the e-billing vendor that you're paying are giving you, right? And then what's going to happen is that I have a better relationship with you. I have a reason to be in front of you every quarter or every 6 months. Second, listen, if I'm consistent, you're going to reward me, right? There are two ways for you to reward me. One is you give me more cases. It's easy for me to get rate increase. And finally, another metric that you should include is your payment collection metrics. What's your payment date? I show you that prior to ALB, we were suffering 20% reduction because we were not complying, and the payment was 40 or 60 days. Now we comply with ALB. If my payment time is also delayed, then you got to tell me why I'm seeing a delay in the cash flow. So by tracking also these metrics and showing to them, you have a way not only to get you pay very quickly. If there's any blip, you can show them clearly where's the blip. Second, you can get a rate increase. Third, you get more cases. So tracking the right metrics is extremely important for law firm because it's only going to be better for their business. And they can only do that if they have a proper system in place, if they have using the right technology.
I see it. I see it today, and I think this is a good lesson for everyone, Andre, for those willing to listen. That technology is not going away, as you said. It's only going to grow, and the business owners that embrace it are the ones who are truly going to utilize it as the competitive advantage that it can be for a law firm. So, Andre, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being willing to take time to educate our listeners. For those that wish to reach out to you, to contact you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Thank you, Tanner. And so they can email me directly. Always open my email address. You can put it on there for them. Is alw@accuratelegalbilling.com, or they can call me directly on 516-279-1615, and my extension is 101. I'm always open to answer any questions, to help. I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I work with those law firm clients for 20 years. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Andre.
And thank you so much for the opportunity to spend some time with you today.
Lawsome by ConsultWebs with Tanner Jones. For show notes, links, and info, go to consultwebs.com/podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Watch for the next Lawsome episode to discover more breakthrough insights to build a thriving law firm.